next guest, here we go. FFA Hall of Famer.
Yep.
He speaks 6 languages. The first foreign player to play in Yugoslav First Division. First Australian to make it big in mainland Europe. He was leading scorer in the Belgian First Division. A 14-year professional playing career in Europe. I'm keeping on going. Scored 17 goals for Australia in 35 games. So many personal awards we can't even begin to name them. What about Socceroo from 1979 to 1990? Please welcome Eddie Krncevic.
Can I just start with a very quick one, Eddie? That footage was absolutely magnificent to see, and thanks for bringing it in.
I've got plenty more, sir.
Let's start off with Socceroo. I mean, we could start off anywhere. We could start on how you even got to this country. I know it's a story in itself, but let's start off with Socceroos. First played in *79. How old were you?
18 was my first cap.
What's it like playing in the Socceroos in the '70s and '80s? It's slightly different from how it is today. What was your
first game?
First game.
My first game was against Partizan Belgrade. Back in those days, I used to play against club teams, and you know, it was,
they came out here to play.
They came out here, so I got subbed off. So you know, it wasn't a great memory, but yeah, it was different back then because we had a lot of expats. And my first memories, well, my biggest memory was the China tour, where I was made to carry everyone's suitcases.
Because you were the youngest in the team.
Because I was the youngest.
So you actually played and carried the suitcases seriously?
Well, I wasn't playing. I was on the bench, but you know, I was told to carry everyone's suitcase.
Right.
Until the third game into the tournament, when I got a chance, and I scored a hat-trick. So that was the end of carrying the suitcase.
So the coach was carrying your suitcase?
Yeah, everyone was carrying my suitcase.
Yeah, wow. So seriously, so there was a bit of like an apprentice kind of role that you played when... Yeah,
there was. I mean, they were sending you on little trips that normally the older ones wouldn't go to. But being the youngest, it's probably a bit different now. I think it's on a level par.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, one of the famous stories about you is the game, because you were playing over in Europe, so you were one of the few Australian players that overseas coaches knew. And there was the game against Scotland, the World Cup qualifier against Scotland.
Was that in '85?
Yeah, there was a certain Alex Ferguson.
Who was in charge of the Scottish
team. Who was in charge,
team.
yeah.
Right. And at the time, he said... It's true that he said when he saw the team sheet, he said, thank goodness that they're not playing Eddie Krncevic, he's their best player.
Yeah, I wasn't invited, so... Yeah,
right, you wasn't invited.
Now, how does that happen?
At the time, my career was starting to build, and I received the fax from the Australian Soccer Federation.
A fax, hey?
A fax.
I actually get faxes on my watch.
I really like that.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Santo's still got a beeper.
Is that the noise?
Yeah. That's his dealer.
But at the time...
That's my dealer.
Don't worry about that. So
at the time, I was asked to come back and play against Fiji. And of course, my club.
It's a glamour. It's a glamour fixture when you're playing in Europe.
Jumping up and down.
Okay. So what club are you playing for?
I was playing for Cercle Bruges.
Oh, so you're in Belgium.
In Belgium.
And you've walked over and you've said to the coach, "Hello, coach. As you know, I'm from Australia. I've received a fax saying they'd like me to go halfway around the world to play against Fiji." And what does he say?
Absolutely not.
Excellent. All right. So you tell the FFA.
So we tell the Soccer Federation you won't be available for the game against Fiji, but should you pass, is available for the Scotland game. And I got a reply saying, well, who is he to pick and choose his game? So I was on the couch watching those two games, and it was sad not to be a part of it.
Well, sad, as in it could have made a big difference, because we only, if I remember correctly, I actually saw the return leg was in Melbourne, I seem to remember, which was a 0-0 draw after we'd lost 2-0 in Scotland. So, and you were scoring with absolute ease
you were leading scorer in the Belgian league at that time.
Well, I wasn't. I was leading scorer of that team at the time. But and I remember watching the game, and we did miss a few chances. We had some really good.
And Eddie,
chances
were you the Lone Ranger on that thing, or by then I know that you were the first wave out of the country, so that you would have been with the Farinas. And
I was before
Farina. Graham Arnold.
I was the first one to win over.
Eddie played in countries that no longer exist.
That's right. That was devastating. It was a devastating effect.
In fact, tell me, how did you? What was it? How did you get to play for Yugoslavia in Yugoslavian league?
In those years, the Australian team used to tour Europe, and we used to play the Fiorentinas, and by chance we played Dinamo Zagreb. wasn't it wasn't a match that we're supposed to play. And I remember playing. We had these Umbro T-shirts with holes in them. Oh, and it was snowing.
Wow.
And we got done 4-0. But
yeah.
they saw something that they liked, and they approached me after the game and said, "Would you like to come and play for Dinamo Zagreb?" And I said, "Oh yeah."
Sure.
Thought nothing.
Got any
of it.
T-shirts without holes in them?
But this is in a league where there were no foreigners playing.
That's right.
Not a single foreigner,
No.
not from anywhere.
That's right.
Right.
Parents are Croatian heritage, but I was the first foreigner to play in Yugoslavia. At the
And was
time.
it fun in Yugoslavia at the time?
Oh, look, it was a great country as far as development for me,
Yeah.
but it was an interesting country. Yes, it was an interesting country. It was a socialist country at the time,
yeah.
and I tried to concentrate on my football, but there was obviously other things going on in the meantime.
Eddie, I just want you to know that if these two weren't here, I would have asked you all those questions.
So what's going on?
No,
It's not
but-
getting a look at.
Yeah, no,
Tell me about
don't worry,
your
he'll
time,
get a chance.
at Dinamo Zagreb.
Yeah.
How long were you there for?
2.5 years.
How long were you supposed to be there for?
4 years.
4 years.
Yes.
What
I was
happened?
kindly asked to leave.
You were kindly asked to
I was
leave.
kindly asked to leave. Yeah, no. So
See, I ask hard questions, mate. Not
Yeah,
like
that
these
was-
ones.
I was asked to leave nicely, politely.
Really?
Yeah.
And straight to Belgium.
Straight to Germany.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
But when you got
Yeah.
married while you were in Yugoslavia.
That's
you know,
right.
But wasn't there, because you weren't being paid all that much while you were
No,
there. So
no.
how did you afford a wedding?
Well, they
Ah,
owed
it's
me
like-
some money, and I actually struggled because they owed me some money.
Okay.
And on that day, I asked for my money, and they did give it to me.
Right.
But I also asked if I could have the next day off. We were playing.
So because you're getting married, so you've said,
Getting
can I have
married.
some money? I'm getting married. They said yes. You
Yeah.
said, but
And a
how
day-
about
and one
tomorrow
day off.
And can I have match day off?
Yeah.
No, you're a required player.
Do you still play in the suit?
I went to bed in the suit. No, I went to bed early,
Yeah.
thinking, well, I better prepare myself. I'm going to play.
Right.
So I was really surprised the next day when I was on the bench.
And that was a little glimpse
Yeah,
in the
it was
married
a
life, was it?
It's not a good start.
The amazing thing is that you were part of the first wave, or in fact you spearheaded the first wave out of the country. At a certain point, I guess in the post-Venables era, you, Frank Farina, Paul Ocon, everyone started coming back. So that was a momentous time for Australian football because we were still in the NSL at the time.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, players were starting to come back with knowledge from overseas. Can you tell us a little bit about what was going on at the time? Were you going to be the Australian coach? Was there any interest there? What was going on?
Well, I was among the candidates with Farina, Ange Postecoglou and David Mitchell. There was 4 of us.
Oh, yeah.
But I came back and was fortunate enough to get Carlton Soccer
yeah.
Club at the time.
Which had some. We've looked back on now. They had some huge players. Bresh was there.
Bresh,
Grella was there.
Colosimo,
Right.
Archie Thompson.
Yeah.
Josh Kennedy.
Josh Kennedy later on.
Yeah, yeah.
But, we set that team up the first year to be full-time, and we were, and got into the final the first year. So, in a sense, we were advanced for the time
Right.
with bringing up the young players. We had 3 18-year-olds playing in the first team.
When you look at the now, and we talked to Viduka about this, and Johnny Aloisi and a lot of other players, and the debate is always about when players go overseas and how quickly they go. And now with that pathway through Asia as well,
Yeah.
that's been, Ange doesn't love players going to Asia for their development.
Yeah.
What do you think? If you were 18 now and you got a chance with an A-League contract, or you were going like, right, I'm going to try my luck in Europe, what do you think you would do?
I'd suggest to any young player to start off in the A-League. If you're good enough to play in the A-League, then you should have a shot in Europe. If you haven't made the A-League, or you haven't gone through the A-League, or the old National League days, how are you going to make it in Europe? It's very difficult. There's only, you could count on one hand. I mean, Kuhl, he went over early. Craig Johnson. It's very rare. I think you should establish yourself first here in the A-League, and then go for it.
What about that thing, though? With the players like Tommy Juric and those sort of guys in that age group, 23, 24, huge money offers coming in from Asian clubs.
Yeah.
I just don't see, if you go back to yourself, like they were paying for your wedding because you
Yeah.
didn't have the dough
That's
and
right.
you were trying to make your dreams come true that way. How can they say no? How can you say no when you're 23? Even if you're going to go for 2 years, you come back, you're 25, can't you have a crack then, or is those 2 years too crucial to miss out on?
You're talking about Tommy Juric specifically.
And yes, in
Well,
this situation.
I feel that he's done the right thing, knocking back the money. He wants to concentrate on going to Europe. It's not easy to get there, but he might kick himself. I'm not sure, but I think he's done the right thing. He needs to.
That's tough.
If that's the pathway he chooses to go to Europe, well, I feel that he's done the right
Wow.
thing.
Eddie, the A-League's been going for 10 years. What's your take on the A-League?
I love it.
Yeah?
I've been a big fan. I am a big fan, and to see it evolve. This is the 10th year. It's only going to get better.
Yeah.
And
well, as soon as we get the Fury back in, do you know what I mean?
that shouldn't be far.
It's got to be close, doesn't it?
And what about the Socceroos? You've obviously just followed the Asian Cup,
Yeah.
and you've seen Ange over the past
Yes.
18 months. And Ange has had an interesting 10 years
Yes.
in terms of the early start was clearly a bit bumpy.
Yeah.
Do you see them going in the right direction, or do you think we've still got a long way to
No,
go?
I see them going in the right direction, and Ange has done a wonderful job, and he was criticised in the beginning, but he believed in a plan, and the plan's going forward. They've won the Asian Cup, and it can only get better from here on. I do strongly believe.
Well, I think, it's Sammy.
I've got another question.
Oh, please. Last question's always reserved for Sam because the guest normally wants to leave after that. All right.
No, just because I hear about your career and read about the career.
Yeah.
Can't believe we're not touching on the Gippsland Falcons, by the way.
That's great.
Yeah.
Travelling to Gippsland.
Sounds
Was
from
that
where?
Bobby McLaughlin's?
No, Frank Arrock.
When you say travelling, how far away from Gippsland?
From Yugoslavia.
Yeah, from Yugoslavia. Leave on Monday, get there on Friday, play the game, and go back.
Gippsland Falcons, were you living... No, seriously, were you...
No,
did you
I
have to
wasn't living there. We
Right,
were actually in a carpool, and we drive from... We
Who
met
went?
at Tagami's. Alex Juric, Will Hasty, Joe Tricarico. I was sponsored by the club for a car, so I made them drive. That was the
Oh,
So
wow.
I was the eldest there, but we used to go there 3 times a week and stay on the Friday night, which was a bonus, Gippsland. Oh, it was wonderful. Play on Saturday, and it was a good experience. But we never got booed, which was great, because they
Wow.
didn't have any spectators.
I wish I knew the feeling. Hey, what about best player you played against and with, Eddie? Just because I'm trying to get some context of your career.
There's a few, but what best player I played against was probably...
See, I told you I ask hard questions, mate.
Sam, I don't know.
Was it Santo? on the
Baggio for me.
Oh, Baggio. Wow.
You
that's
played
good.
against...
Player that played for
Yeah,
played
wow.
against Baggio.
Even I've heard of him.
Yeah.
All right, we could do
He
this.
missed a penalty though, did he?
Yeah, he did once in the World Cup, I remember.
He
We
did, I
we
remember.
could talk to you all night, but we do have to let you go. An absolute legend
Yeah.
of Australian football, an FFA Hall of Famer. Please thank Eddie Krncevic.
You've been watching Santo, Sam and Ed's Total Football. Michael Zapponi speaking. Wow, that sounded great.
This has been a production of Fox Sports.